Let me tell you about the Smoky Rose. And the first thing I want to tell you about the Smoky Rose is we will be there tomorrow. Your Dark Companion, a live podcast remote from Smoky Rose tomorrow, the 19th of September. We will be there at 4 o'clock. Live music will come down afterward by Bill Brooks, maybe a sit-in with, somebody from the cast around here. But if you don't know about the Smoky Rose, what you do need to know about it is it's a Tex-Mex barbecue joint that is in the heart of their community over in East Dallas. It was established in 2016. They serve meats that are smoked in their wood-burning smoker, low and slow. That is the right way to do this. And it brings out the best flavors. Every item is made with the highest quality ingredients. Every bite is as good as the last. The drinks, let's talk about them. They are made with the special care and vast knowledge of their owner, the great David Cash. They are located in East Dallas, right in the heart of it, right across the street from the Arboretum. They have the perfect seat for you on their patio. They're open year-round. You can enjoy your food and drinks while taking in the beautiful surroundings. They are open for brunch on Sundays. Happy hour is from 3 to 6. It is at 8602 Garland Road in Dallas. And don't forget, Your Dark Companion will be there tomorrow, the 19th of September from 4 until 6. We will be doing a live podcast there. Nobody would have thought that I would be the one. Rhyner, Sports Talk. Baseball, 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 baseball. Oh, with the big mic. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Okay, now I get it.
We had a lightning strike, boys. What happened over there, Grego? We had a little lightning strike right outside the window.
All right. Here's a tip for all these Americano League teams.
Wait, you said tip?
Yeah, tip.
Okay.
With a P.
Keep jamming.
The ticket, colon, nothing but a big Gen X jerk-off sake.
This is a cool night or what?
Although somebody would hear that and go, bullshit.
I'm back, bitches.
This is Your Dark Companion. Welcome in, everybody. I would be Mike Rhyner. We have the usual crew on hand here. Shoopy is over there. Ashley, Becca, myself, ready to edify you in that way that we do on this, the 18th of September. Now, what we're going to do here this afternoon is we're going to get a little Oak Cliffy on you, if you don't mind. I'm a native of Oak Cliff. I was raised there, stayed there for a number of years into adulthood. I do not live there now, but Oak Cliff is still kind of like this to me. And we brought in a couple of others who probably share at least some of those same traits to help us out with this today. One has written a book on Oak Cliff. It's right there, Oak Cliff and the Missing Pieces, written by Gregory M. Hastie, or Greg, as he would prefer to be known. But just for a little bit of further spice on this, we have brought in an item of curiosity for many over the years. If you've followed me hither and yon across the radio dial, you're probably at least vaguely aware of my sister. Well, here she is, Patti Davidson.
Yay.
Another Oak Cliffite. And we are prepared to discuss Oak Cliff amongst ourselves. And maybe, if you find yourself Oak Cliff curious, maybe you've thought about maybe moving over that way or some such, maybe we can clarify some matters for you and either turn you completely against it or spur you into action, as the case may be. Thank you, two, for doing this today.
Glad to be here.
Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. I guess we should probably get into this book first, Greg, because this seems to be a very sizable undertaking. I'm into it myself. I've not gotten very far, but I see already that this is fairly dense, and it's going to be a task to make it through this, but I'll bet the end game will justify the means.
I think so, yes, for sure.
What spurred this from you?
Well, a friend of mine, Bill Akelin, and I drove around Oak Cliff all the time. And we were saying, oh, that happened here, this happened there. And it turned out that there was so much history that we never knew. So we did more research and accumulated data, and it just grew from there. And it's a much bigger project than what I ever anticipated. But once you started, you had to finish it.
Yeah.
Now, we should also mention that all three on the esteemed panel here are Fighting Kimball Knights, as is the aforementioned Bill Akelin. Yes,
No,
cheer him on
not
for big.
this one.
Not this one.
Oh, no?
Carter Cowboy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. You got out of there when Carter opened, did you?
I was 2 houses from the border.
Oh, that was a near miss.
Yes, it was.
All right, well, you're a near night then.
Yes, I'm a near night. My family went there, so yeah.
Yeah, your older brother and sister, who I believe were twins.
Twins, yes.
And they were in my class. And I knew the male side of it fairly well. The female side, not so much, but I certainly knew her when I saw her.
Sure.
And yeah, so there's a little bit of history here with us.
Sure.
Yeah, connections.
For sure.
What do you find about Oak Cliff and growing up there in the 60s when we all did that would spur something like this? And let me say just one more thing. Make no mistake. I think Oak Cliff was a great place to grow up in. I don't know what it's like now. Haven't lived there for a long time, but no matter what your perceptions of it might be based on what you hear and what you see now, back when we were there, it was a great place to grow up in, I thought.
Yeah.
You share that same view?
I share that same view, and Patty, I'm sure
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
can testify that too. There was so much music back in that era. It seems like more so than anywhere else you might go. And there were so many just laid back people. And the minute you talk to someone today, you can kind of gather if they're from Oak Cliff or not, because it was just sort of a laid back community of maybe a quarter million people. And it was just a relaxing, kind of an eager, growing area at that time. So it was exciting. What do you think, Patty?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was just kind of your suburbia sort of storybook kind of place, you know. And, you know, we had a lot more freedom to move around, you know. Halloween, for example, was always, you know, you just ran the neighborhood till way after dark, and then in the
Didn't have to
summertime-
worry about nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing bad was going to happen to you.
And in the summertime, you just played until you heard your dad whistle, and that meant dinner was ready, and so you would make your way home, and it was a very carefree kind of environment. growing
Yeah,
up.
it was, and this is another point that people get confused on if you're among the uninitiated, and probably those who actually do live in the suburbs don't know this, or they don't have it straight, but Oak Cliff is not a suburb of Dallas. It is an area just like, I don't know, Pleasant Grove or any of the others that you might name. It's an area unto itself. It's like a suburb, but not really, right, Greg?
It was kind of forced into being a suburb because it actually was its own city. They incorporated in 1890, and they were a city all to its own. They did that for protection because Dallas was looming across the river, and they were looking at them for annexation. So they created their own city and charter and held on for 12 years until they had to kind of throw in the towel.
Till they had to give it up.
Yes, that there's something called, this is before my time, the Panic of 1903. And that was, you know, one of the biggest depressions the country's ever experienced. It hit Oak Cliff hard, and Oak Cliff could not provide the services that the individuals and the residents needed. So they were really forced to ask Dallas to come in and take over.
Did they ask Dallas to come in, or did Dallas say, look, little buddy, we'll help you out?
Yeah,
All nice and benevolent and everything.
I think it was more of a, we're in trouble. Can you help us out?
Yeah.
And they knew Dallas was on their front steps, so it was kind of a mutual thing. But Oak Cliff was in a position where they had no choice.
I wonder if it was that way with Pleasant Grove, too.
It's possible, very possible. I don't know much about Pleasant Grove, but Dallas annexed or took over probably 10 or 12 different communities. on the Oak Cliff side. So there were just numerous numbers of little cities like Jimtown and Honey Grove and places you never heard of. I didn't until I wrote this book. And they annexed them, West Dallas, there's Eagle Ford, places like that.
Now, the thing that is made very clear, even in the first part of the book that I've read, is that for Dallas and for, I don't know, any area of Dallas that bumped up next to it, and most of them did, the real line of demarcation around here, the thing that really, the straw that really stirred the drink, if you will, was always the Trinity River.
So true. It was kind of Oak Cliff's nemesis because it separated the Oak Cliff side and all its residents from the county courthouse, and where they had to file legal papers early on. They couldn't cross the river unless they had to pay a toll. And so over time, there was a lot of acrimony just because Big Brother demanded so much from Oak Cliff, and we got very little in return.
And, I think of the Trinity River today, and I think of an area that has had nothing done to it or for it for really as long as I've been on the planet. It's always been there, and you see it. You cross over it, but there has never been any real major drive to develop it and turn it into something else. Although for a while, I mean, every now and then, and I bet you've got a little bit on this in the book, there has been some uprisings about, okay, we're going to do something with the Trinity River. We're going to make it a happening scene, or make it this, make it that, but just do something with it.
Yes, they should. It's long overdue, and Patti, you probably read this in the book.
Yeah.
Where the Trinity River actually snaked through Dallas.
Yeah.
And it was a very beautiful, picturesque river, but it flooded. And so the natural thing to do was just let's carve out a big path for it. And what turned out from that reparation is just the ugliest river you would ever see, because it's basically just a slit down the land, and the river flows straight through it. But it does protect. I guess there is some good to that.
Yeah.
It's like a giant floodplain.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I do remember how often, like once every, 2 or 3 years, usually in the springtime when, it's always rainy around here, that we would get a few days of rain and the Trinity would indeed flood, and had caused a lot of chaos. And the closer you lived to it, the more you were impacted by it. Now, we, way out on the edge of southwestern Oak Cliff, never, had any kind of firsthand dealings with that, but it was all you heard about on the news, and all you heard about on the radio. You heard your parents talking to other people about it, and it was a thing. It was a thing, and it happened quite a bit.
And it took them so long to fix the problem. That was the big issue. There were very poor indigent people that lived up and down the Trinity River, and every time it would flood, there would be typhoid. There would be all kinds of mosquitoes and snakes, and the city just never stepped forward to correct it until, I'd say, probably 30, 50 years ago.
Why? Why did they never?
Good question. Oak Cliff kept asking that.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Why? As a matter of fact, Oak Cliff turned down a bond issue that the city was issuing because they didn't feel like they were getting their equal representation on city services. So that kind of got Dallas's attention, and things changed a little bit. But yeah, people here in Oak Cliff, or there in Oak Cliff, really, really wanted changes, but it would never come. Kind of like the stepchild of the city.
Yeah.
When
the
you
way
agree?
it's always, the way it's always been. You see it that way?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it did have one thing that was good, that we could go and cross the river.
That's
Now,
true.
you might explain what cross the river means, Mike.
Across the river around here means somebody tells you they're going to cross the river, they're going to get some booze.
Right.
They're going to get beer or booze, because Oak Cliff, back then, was completely, totally, 100% dry. If there was any place you could go and find alcohol in Oak Cliff, I couldn't tell you what it would be. Now, it's not that way so much now. All that wet, dry stuff has gotten a little bit blurred. The lines in there have over the years. And if you want to go over to Oak Cliff and have a pop, you can do that. And you can do it quite easily. And you can do it in a number of different areas, including areas where you wouldn't think those kinds of places would be. But, well, they very much are.
So true. Back in the 40s, there was a place called Pappy Showland. I don't know if you've ever heard of that place.
I've heard of it.
It was down on Commerce and Fort Worth Avenue. And yeah, that's kind of West Dallas, but where is West Dallas and Oak Cliff? They're kind of one and the same. But Pappy Showland was serving illegal alcohol for a long time. Even though, and the reason being is the city of Dallas had passed or had repealed prohibition, but Oak Cliff didn't. So they kind of snuck it under the table, and everybody just looked the other way for a long time. And there were other places too.
Now, here's another thing about Oak Cliff. And if you've ever taken it upon yourself to drive through the highways and byways of it, you probably have noticed this. It is, without question, the most picturesque part of the city. I mean, it has, everybody thinks Dallas is flat. For the most part, it is. But out there in Oak Cliff, there are hills, and I mean serious hills, too. There is foliage, there are trees. I mean, even today, there are parts of Oak Cliff, I could take you right to them, that are still largely untouched by man. And it is without a doubt the most picturesque part of Dallas. If you want to drive around Dallas, you don't want to leave Dallas, but you want something scenic, then head for Oak Cliff, man. You will not be disappointed.
That is so true. Weren't there a lot of hills where you live, Patti? Or over by Kimball?
Over by Kimball,
Boulder?
actually.
Yeah, Boulder.
Around Boulder and then down toward the back end of where we lived,
Yeah.
like that Keast Park.
Yes.
Yes.
Not Keast Park, but Keast.
Keast
If you-
Crest
if you-
and all
yes,
that. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. There are hills out the wazoo over there in that part of it.
And it surprises you because you're driving along and then all of a sudden there's this huge hill and you wonder where it came from. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the time there may be only one, but in some places there are several. I remember before we moved over by Kimball, we lived out near Polk Terrace.
Oakland Hills is where we live.
Yes, Oakland Hills.
Is that what it's called? Okay.
Yeah, Oakland Hills is what they called it, but Polk Terrace is the area people know.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
And we would go visit our grandmother, and to do that, we had to drive down Highway 67. And to get to Highway 67, we had to go down Camp Wisdom. Now,
Yes.
Camp Wisdom Road now is all built up and everything like that. But back then, it's even paved, if you can believe that. Back then, it was unpaved, and there were just a ton of hills. And there used to be one hill that we used to call the Fun Hill.
It
Remember
was
the Fun Hill?
Hill. I'll
Yes.
never forget the Fun Hill.
Yes, because the drop was, though not, deep at all, was real sudden.
Yes.
And it would leave you with butterflies in your stomach for a
Yes.
couple seconds.
Yes.
And we always tried to get our old man to drive fast over the Fun Hill.
But it was only in one direction because
Yeah, that's right.
wasn't
Yeah.
it at the corner of Hampton
Yes.
and Camp Wisdom?
It was just a little
And
bit
if-
to the west of that, not
Right.
far from that big old
The big house,
Yeah, the
yeah.
big house.
The Suttereth House.
Yes.
Yes, which we
I
have-
knew you would know that.
Which we had talked about on the podcast before when we had the Haunted AF girls in here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the house that was the Tender Mercies interior, right? The interior
yeah, I
of the
think
home
so.
in the movie Tender
Yeah.
Mercies.
I think
That
so.
house was used.
But it, yeah, into the microphone.
I'm going to eat it more. Sorry, I kind of did. Yeah, so it was the interior. The other place that I'm sure you both probably know too that we talked about with the Haunted AF girls was Granny's house. and
Off Plymouth Road.
Yes.
yes.
Oh,
We used
yeah,
to
yeah.
drive
With
by
the
there
women,
all the
the
time.
older
Stevensburg,
women, and
Yeah.
gosh, it was such a sad story. Ultimately, about these women and what happened there, and them believed to be witches, and
Yeah.
kids, breaking into their home, hurting them. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. But they gave out candy, and the police came and stood on the porch to keep security for them. But the kids would come and trick or treat.
Oh my gosh, I can't
Brave.
imagine. I didn't see that house until I think I was out with Mike Kindred on a date, and he knew where the house was, so we drove by the house. And
Mike
he showed
Kindred,
it to
the
me.
noted blues keyboard player from Dallas,
amazing piano.
who's been
player.
a denizen of Austin for these many years.
Yeah.
But yeah, that house was still there, and it was a lot of fun to drive by it just for a second.
Oh yeah, that was all you needed, really.
But I mean, that whole area back there, I haven't been down that way for a while, so I don't know what it's like now. But it was just all woods and brush and foliage and trees, and I don't even know if there were any paths or anything like that up in there.
Greg, you write quite a bit about that area in the book.
Yes. You're talking about the Suttereth home again. Yes.
No, the Plymouth Road.
The Plymouth, yes.
No,
yes.
I'm talking about the Suttereth home.
Oh, you're
the
okay.
Suttereth? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
it
let's
was
stick with that for
heavily
right now.
wooded. And one of the reasons it was is because the owner, Mrs. Suttereth, who my mom knew and
Oh wow.
didn't think she was strange at all, but thought it was haunted because she raised peacocks.
Yeah.
And if you know what a peacock kind of cry sounds like, it
Yes.
sounds like someone's in bad shape.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like Siamese cat. Sounds like
Yes.
a woman or child crying,
Yeah.
screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Very good.
I wasn't there.
But you knew.
Something like that.
Yes. But there was a lot of that, and so it did kind of seem eerie because of all the woods. You couldn't see into the house. You couldn't really go up to the front door, and
And there was never any life around it.
No.
No,
You
there
know,
wasn't.
Like no cars on the big circle driveway or anything like that. Nobody moving around. It was quite bizarre.
and you know who owns it now?
Who's that?
Tony Evans and his church.
Oh, really?
They use that
Wow.
as sort of a business office.
Wow.
That's great.
I think did we find that out when we did the research, or did I just read it?
You might have
don't
read
know.
it in the book.
I might have read it in the book, 'cause I did read the book.
Yeah.
I feel like it was you, though, that we talked about it and found out Tony Evans is now not actually in the ministry, but
That's right.
still.
He's stepped down for a while.
Well, all I know about Tony Evans is this. If you get married by him, it is most serious. Because he tells you what you will do and you will not do. And he is very, very to the point about it. It's like, okay, man. Okay. I do. I really do. I leave me alone.
I will, I promise. Oh, man.
All right, what's another good Oak Cliff talking point? I know you've got a few.
Yeah. Well, I have questions for Greg.
Well, let's do them.
A couple of times in the book you mentioned redlining, and having lived in the areas that we lived in, those neighborhoods were not diverse in the least at the times when we moved in. We moved into Oakland Hills; it was all white. When we moved into, what was our Kimball one? It wasn't Kimball.
Kimball Estates.
Kimball Estates, same thing. All white.
That Estates may have been a bit of a reach.
And yeah, exactly. And on the background of all that, I read a great book called The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. If you haven't read it, you need to read it because it goes into all of the ways the U.S. government legalized redlining and treating particularly black people prejudicially in every facet of their lives. And it kind of reads like a textbook, but if you can kind of get over that and, go through it, it's really shocking.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's worth reading. And so it occurred to me as I was reading your book, and then also when I was reading this one, because developers would come in and they would absolutely redline where their neighborhoods were going to be, and that there would be no black people that would be allowed to buy in that tract.
That's right.
And so I was wondering if you found anything specific about any of the areas, because we had so many of them. You mentioned Polk Terrace and Singing Hills, and there were probably a lot of others. Glen Oaks was kind of a,
Kind of a separated area
yeah,
that was kind of reserved for whites. Yes,
Exactly.
yes. There was a lot of that, Patty, and particularly what I've seen is the 10th Street Historical District. I saw one particular story where a developer was going in there to build some single-family homes, and he had white in mind. That was his goal. But there was a black park right across the street. So he bought, I think it was 2 or 3 acres to buffer the land between his development and the black park. So that's one example of kind of a blatant example of what developers did back then. But even in our era, there was a lot of that. There was certain guidelines that you were to go into. You could lend here, but not here. You could give somebody a mortgage here, but not across this red line. And so banks were really historically bad about that sort
they
of thing.
were quite compliant in the whole thing. Yeah.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Did you know I was a banker for 40 years?
I didn't know that.
Yes, and
Oh
I
my
saw it
gosh.
firsthand. Now, I was in the trust department, so
Okay. Yeah.
I'm innocent. But yes, banks did that.
Yeah.
And they always claimed, well, we can't make any money. They don't have enough money for us to make money.
Right.
But that was a very
That's
poor excuse.
That is a poor excuse.
Yes.
That is a poor excuse. So.
So, what other areas of Oak Cliff intrigue you, Greg?
There was something I ran across I had no knowledge of whatsoever. It's called Monroe Shops. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Monroe Shops.
I don't think so.
Well, back when the streetcars were pretty active in Dallas, which they were up until 56, Monroe Shops served as their kind of an auto fix-it station. Not auto, but for the streetcars. This is their maintenance barn.
Yeah.
And so they have this gigantic building over there where they could actually raise the top of the streetcars so that they could work on the undercarriage and that sort of thing.
Oh, my.
So it was like a multi-ton, and back then it's just amazing to me that they could do this.
Yeah.
But they would repair, they would maintain all of the streetcars coming in. Well, this has been converted and restored to a museum now. And I had no idea there was a museum, but DART bought it, and it is now the headquarters of their DART police.
Oh.
But they've got a couple of old streetcars in there, and it's a museum. I recommend everybody go over there. It's on Corinth,
Okay.
right by Illinois. Illinois and Corinth, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
That's one thing
Yeah.
that I can mention.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Cool.
And I'm trying to think of any other interesting things. Of course, the
The
zoo.
whole book is
Yeah.
interesting. I read it cover to cover, and it is just an exhaustive, really, compendium of everything that you've maybe ever wondered about in Oak Cliff. And the first part of the book is focused kind of on the history, and then it goes into other almost like enumerations or lists of different types
Yeah.
of points of interest.
And that part about the
yeah.
history is really interesting too, because you'll be reading along and they'll talk about this area was called this, and it later became this, like Wheatland is one of those.
Right.
I mean, it was really shocking to me to be reading about whatever Wheatland was prior.
Sproul's Corner.
Yeah, Sproul's Corner.
Sproul's Corner, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he said it became Wheatland. Well, I mean, Wheatland Road was a pretty major part of our growing up. There wasn't a whole lot out there, but still, that was one of the streets we had to drive down to go see Grandma.
Right. And when the Flair moved to the Armory,
Yeah, well,
it was on Wheatland, wasn't it?
no, that was on Redbird Lane.
Oh, that was
Lane.
Redbird.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
yeah.
close, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's a little factoid for you. Did you know Hampton Road used to be called Wheatland Road?
No,
my
I didn't know
gosh.
that.
That was the primary
I haven't
route.
made it that far yet.
Yeah, right. you'll read it. But that was the primary route for all of the cattle and sheep drives coming down, and they
Okay.
call that Wheatland. And that's kind of how Wheatland community got its name. That was kind of one of the stopping points or depots for them to kind of rest before they go further south to Waco. So,
Wow. That's amazing.
little known fact.
Yeah. Really.
And there are a lot of other little known facts, like, when we were kids, we went to grade schools, and you'd play other grade schools and sports, and they'd have the Christmas basketball tournament at Beckley Sainer every year, and you'd wind up running into some schools that you didn't know too much about. You never had heard of the guy that was named for or anything. Well, a lot of those names turn up in this book. And it's really kind of a little bit of a mind blow to find out what these guys did. And the fact that there really was a guy named I don't know, Lenore Kirk Hall or something like that,
Thomas Marsalis.
Yeah, Thomas Marsalis, big player in Oak Cliff.
Yeah, I would say he is probably, if not the big, maybe the first or second most influential individual for Oak Cliff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he had a grade school named after him. Not only that, he's got a street named after him.
After him.
And for a long time, and I believe it's the Dallas Zoo now, but for a long time it was the Marsalis Zoo.
It was the Marsalis Zoo.
Absolutely.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's what we know it as.
Yeah, that is what we know it as. What's the one thing about Oak Cliff as you were putting this together that made you have to stop for a second and kind of get up from the table, maybe walk around a little bit and go, man, I had no idea about that.
I would say it has to do with the 10th Street Historic District, how little was thought of it at the time and how much damage the city of Dallas did to it, because it is the only, and this is the only one in the country, it's a freedman settlement that is still intact.
Wow.
It's the only one. But when they built 35, they went straight through it and tore it just right in half.
Yeah.
Then they built, not long after, Clarendon was extended, and it cut through it as well. So, and that's where, close to where the flooding was, and just the amount of problems that existed over there, but were, never given attention. And today it's trying to make a renaissance. They've got the deck park that's going on across the zoo, which feeds into the 10th Street Historic District, and they're trying to renovate some of the homes, but they're also knocking a lot of them down. So that's kind of a sad thing.
Yeah.
But I hope they preserve it. There's a lot of residents over there that fear that gentrification is going to come with that deck park. And there's going to be some of these fast food restaurants come in, and we're going to lose that culture of what we've had.
Yeah.
So
That's the way it always goes.
isn't it?
Yep,
Yeah,
it
so
is.
true.
One of the best parts of the book for me was, Greg, when you talk about your experience around the Kennedy assassination. And I just, I think all of us who grew up in Oak Cliff are, we are all suffering from a collective PTSD around that, maybe even to this day. Because I know I went through a whole stage where I was really ashamed to tell people I was from Dallas, that it just, it really bothered me a lot that could happen in my city. And I wanted you to share a little bit about your own personal story on that day.
Okay. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. It is a long story. But my parents were avid Kennedy supporters, and so much so that they wanted to see him when he came to town, because nobody ever came to Texas. It was the frontier. You don't go out there. It's too dangerous. And we proved them right. But they got us out of school. I think I was in the 5th grade, something like that.
I think we were 6th graders.
6th graders. Yeah. And we went downtown, stood and waited for hours and hours until he finally made his appearance, because he was late coming from Fort Worth. And very cold that day, and I'll never forget when we were on the side of the road, we heard the commotion, we heard the fanfare, and he was coming down the road. And so everybody just started piling into the middle of the street from the curbs, and it was like 5 or 6, 7 deep. And they kind of carried me with them, because I was a little tyke. And so the first thing I saw was a motorcycle coming right at me. And they did not veer, they did not swerve. You were going to get out of the way or else. So I jumped back, and then, of course, the president came by, and we saw them, and John Connolly, and all that sort of thing. And it was just the coolest thing ever to see Jackie and everybody in that car. And when we made our way to our parking lot, got in the car, sirens were just going off everywhere. And I've never heard anything since or anything close to the volume and number of sirens that were going on at the time. And we knew something was wrong. So we turned on the radio, and that's when we heard about the shooting. And then by the time we got home, he had died. So it was a very traumatic day for all of us. My parents, they had tears in their eyes, and we were all just shocked to the core because that just doesn't happen.
Right.
And here it happened in our city.
Right, exactly. And then it bled to Oak Cliff.
Yes.
With Officer Tippett being murdered.
Now, I've never asked you, I don't think. What's your Kennedy story?
Oh, I know. I don't have the depth of knowledge that you do, because if you guys don't know my brother, let me just say to you that he is a guy that will pick a few things and then he will go deep into those things. So, and that happens to be one of the things.
Which is another way of saying that her brother is an idiot.
No, not at all. I think it's just, some of us are dilettantes and others of us are deep thinkers, and you're a deep thinker. And so, I
Now, you were still at TG, weren't you?
Yeah, I was at TG Terry.
Okay.
I was in the 6th grade, and Brenda Tippett was in the 5th grade there. Yeah, and and you had Alan was in your class.
That's
at
right.
Brown,
He
right?
was.
Yeah. So it was it was really highly personal for us, and I hadn't really thought much about it until years after watching 9/11 coverage, on that day, and then having one of the local LA reporters whose work I admire. She happened to be there visiting family, and so she went out and covered it for Channel 5, which is really truly a local LA station. They don't write stories off of the wires. They don't do any of that. It's all local news, and
Not a network affiliate or anything?
no, but they're really good at what they do. And she was there to cover it, and years later, really, I realized that I felt a real affinity for her because this happened where her family was, in her town, which was New York, just like this all happened to us. And it, when something like that happens close to you, you just own a piece of it that, stays with you, I think, for a long time. But getting back to your question, I always scratched my head in wonder about how Lee Harvey Oswald could have made it on the city bus back to Beckley and then over to the Texas Theater in time to be captured. And having shot a police officer.
Interesting.
Just, how with all the chaos, with all the, how did that happen? I don't know.
Well,
Shuey just always does the right thing,
That's right.
do you remember where you were and what they did in school or anything?
Well, yeah, I remember we were in class, and Mrs. Coleman came on the loudspeaker and told us what had happened, and told us that they were going to close school. And so I think I probably just walked home since we lived across the street.
Yeah.
And then we were supposed to have an outing 3 days later to go see the opera Carmen at the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. And damned if Lee Harvey Oswald didn't get shot by Jack Ruby, and it ruined our outing. Yeah. So
you just got yanked around all kinds of ways by
all
it.
manner and variety.
And then you've got to think about Nick McDonald, who made the arrest in the Texas Theater.
Yes.
His daughter was in my class.
Oh, wow.
So talk about personal, the Tippetts, the McDonalds, and being at Oak Cliff. It's
Truly,
really kind of too close to home.
Yeah.
How did Miss Coleman, who was the principal at our grade school then, how did she handle that?
It was hard. Her voice was weak, and I don't remember her exact words or anything, but she she did what she needed to do for the kids.
Yeah.
And just gave a little bit of information about that the president had been shot and we're going to dismiss school.
Now, I could be wrong about this, but I don't remember one school personnel coming on the PA and telling us anything
Really?
when
At
it
Brown?
happened. Yeah. I was at Brown Junior High then, room 121.
Wow.
Teacher was Mr. Stoll, he taught arithmetic. He'd write on the board, wipe it off with his hands, and then wipe that off on his suit. Nobody liked him. First name was Ernest. But we were in there, and all of a sudden, just out of the blue, the PA comes on, and they're playing KLIF.
Whoa.
And, all the kids are looking at each other thinking, what's going on here? But, okay. So we're going to listen to a little radio, huh?
Yeah.
And then they turned it off. And then about, half a minute or so later, it came back on again. And it was KLIF, and their news team was on it, and they were covering it. And a guy came on and said, we've received a report that shots were fired at the Kennedy motorcade in downtown Dallas. That's all we know right now. We will keep you up to date. Stay tuned to KLIF, the Mighty 1190. And they went away again, and everybody was kind of in the room looking at each other like going, the hell, And then probably about a minute later, they came on again and said that they'd confirmed all this and that he had been rushed to Parkland Hospital. There was no word on his condition as of yet, but sources had informed them that it did not look good.
Wow.
And then after that, they came on and told us what had happened, that he was gone, and we just went to class the rest of the day and just sat there listening to news accounts of it. And then by the time we got around to fifth period, that was woodshop class for me. And in that woodshop class was Alan Tippett.
Oh, my God.
Now, you know this, don't you?
I did not know this part. No.
Yeah, Alan Tippett was in our woodshop class that day. I didn't notice it. I don't think anybody else did at the time, but he was not there. And that was about the time that the reports came down that a Dallas officer had been shot. And then not too long after that, word came down that it was Officer J.D. Tippett. And Alan was sitting at it was kind of a four-corner table scene in woodshop, where each guy had a corner. And he was sitting right across or right behind me, but he was not there. And I didn't know Alan very well, but I knew him well enough to know his dad was a cop.
Oh, wow.
And I just kind of did this, where I was turning my head to look over my shoulder thinking, no, please tell me this is not so. But he was gone. I mean, he was not in class, and sure enough, they came and got him already. And
Oh, wow. Wow.
it was a weird day.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And we were robbed of the Texas Theater. I don't think I ever went back to that theater for a film.
Well, the Texas Theater is back.
I know it is.
And it is actually
you can
it is
speak to
actually
that.
thriving right now.
Yeah.
It is.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's a great theater. They have a lot of great things that go on there.
And they've maintained it pretty much. They've renovated it, but it's still very much like it was when we went there.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's still got the same vibe.
It does. It does.
Cool. That's good to know.
They did a really nice job of the renovation for sure.
They did. They did.
Didn't they have a Stevie Ray or Jimmy Vaughn production there
They did.
They did.
They did.
earlier? So they have special events.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't it just last year?
It might have been.
have been.
I have no sense of time.
Yeah, there's a documentary, the Stevie Ray Vaughan documentary that he was in. So he got email, I need you to be here, I want you to come. So
That's cool. Only in Oak Cliff could you walk into homeroom and suddenly Jimmy Vaughn is sitting right in front of you
Yes.
where you sit.
Yes.
That happened to me.
that's funny.
You were in class with Jimmy Vaughn?
I was in homeroom.
I don't think I knew this.
Yeah. And I think it was, I was trying to figure out where it was, but I think it was at Brown in the 9th grade. Because
Yeah.
I don't remember ever going to homeroom at Kimball. I don't know
Yeah.
if we had homerooms. but I think that's where it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he played a lot at Oak Cliff Country Club. I say a lot. We saw him several times.
Yeah.
You know, they had sock hops and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And someone turned to me. I said, "Man, this guy is great." He says, "If you think he's good, you should see his little brother." So, you know, I kind of kept that in the back of my mind. And maybe 2 or 3 years later, do you remember the Cellar downtown?
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Did you and I not go to the
We
cellar
may have
on
gone to the
several
cellar.
occasions?
But guess who was there? An underage Stevie Ray Vaughan showed up. And I think they snuck him in because at that time there was an age limit for liquor, you know.
Yeah.
And so,
it was 21.
and he was
None
underage.
of us were supposed to be
No.
there.
And he got up there and played, and I don't think there was a mouth closed. They were
Yeah.
just all in awe
Yeah.
of what he was doing.
Yeah.
So that's my Stevie Ray.
Yeah.
He was way ahead of his time, man. Way ahead of it. So was Jimmy. I mean,
Jimmy was awesome. He was,
Still is.
Yeah, and still is. Absolutely.
he was, you know, this is before he got into playing the blues and everything like that, which is how people know him now. But when Jimmy was playing with the Pendulums and the Chessmen, you know,
Chessman. Gosh, yes.
psychedelia was reigning. So it was starting to come in, and it's hard to imagine this listening to what Jimmy does now. But man, he could play that stuff. He could play Hendrix. He could play anything like that as well as anybody. You know,
He could.
I mean, those guys were just unbelievably gifted guitar
Yeah.
players.
They
both
were
of them.
born to do that.
Yeah, they
were.
were.
They
They
were.
were.
Yeah.
They weren't
They certainly
born
were.
to go to no school.
No.
Yeah. Ain't no homeroom for me.
Teacher, leave them kids alone.
Yes.
Different band, different era.
Yeah.
And that was a common denominator in Oak Cliff. So many musicians came out of Oak Cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ZZ Hill, Johnny Taylor, of course, the Vaughn brothers, and all the guys at Adamson, like Mike Martin Murphy, Ray Riley Hubbard.
Yeah. B.W.
Yeah, weren't you a big-
Stevenson. All the guys we used to hear at the Rubaiyat, you know, Mike Murphy and
Yeah.
B-Dub.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Now you went to that scene a lot, didn't
Oh,
you?
yeah.
The Rubaiyat.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was so cool. It was so cool.
Where was Rubaiyat?
It was on McKinney.
McKinney. I thought so.
Yeah, I think I can get you into the general area of where it was, but I'm not sure about that.
I want to hear more about the Flare because I know
Oh,
I know of a band that played at the Flare.
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
I would like to hear more about that.
That was kind of like a free-for-all music fest.
It was. It was a Saturday night dance for teens, and it was named for ML's daughter, Candy, for sure. I remember seeing Candy there. She was, you know, one of the people that was always
Yeah.
there, and it was Candy's Flare.
ML King was the guy's name who started it,
Yeah.
and I don't think the ML stand for Martin Luther, but I could be wrong about that. I don't
I'd
know.
be kind of surprised.
I'd be kind of
based on the
surprised
era,
too. Yeah,
you know,
I would.
it wouldn't be a bad thing. It'd certainly be a good thing because
Well,
they were both
I-
great men.
But I do not think that that's what that was. But again, I could be wrong. And this started at a church.
Presbyterian Church.
Yes.
Yeah, a Presbyterian church out on Marsalis. Yeah, it was Marsalis, wasn't it? To get us back on that thread once
Okay,
again.
Okay.
That's the address on the poster that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they would just do Saturday nights there. It was for teens. You go in, you pay 50 cents or something like that.
Yeah.
And there would be a band, sometimes two, playing. And it was just kind of a teen dance, you know?
A place to be seen and,
Yes.
and
Yes,
meet people.
and make
Yeah.
new friends, and you know.
And the schools would mix. It's not like
Yeah,
it's just your school.
right.
Yeah,
right.
it
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
a
It
school
was. It
thing
was
at
not
all.
a school thing at all. Yeah.
I mean, you would encounter people from all kinds of different schools and
Oh,
all
yeah.
kinds of different scenes, and it was just a really neat teen mixer, I guess you could call it.
I remember hanging out with kids from both Bishop Dunn and South Oak Cliff there.
Yeah, yeah,
And coincidentally, this was the time of the music boom.
Yes,
Where you had the
yes.
British invasion coming in.
Yes.
And all of these new sounds. And it was just so exciting at that time.
and all of the guys, if you were even the slightest bit musically inclined, and especially if you were a dork, you wanted to be in a band because that was something that would make you cool. You could go if you played your cards right and had your scene together. You could go from dorkdom to cool very easily if you were in a band.
That's right. Yeah. Turn on the light switch.
Yeah.
I'm cool now. But Becca, they moved it from that Presbyterian church over to the Dallas Armory.
Yeah, because it got too big.
It was too big.
Too big.
ML found that he could make a buck off of this.
Yeah.
And
good for him. He volunteered his heart and soul for
He did,
years to
man. He put
this on.
put everything into that. And if he made a buck off of that, then great.
It's okay. He did a lot of
deserves
good.
it. Yeah.
Where can teens go like that now?
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
No.
If they're smart, they're afraid to go anywhere like that now.
Yes, that is true.
exactly.
Lost a little of the ambiance, though. That was the one thing the church had
Yeah.
that the Armory may
A
not
little
have
bit.
had quite as much.
Yeah.
A little bit, but he started drawing bigger crowds,
Bigger
and getting
crowds.
bigger bands in there.
Bigger bands and
You know, he'd get the Southwest FOB out there,
Yes.
who you know today is England Dan and John Ford Coley.
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I must have missed that.
yeah, yeah. Those two guys are. I think one of them's no longer with
I
us.
think that could be, yeah.
But yeah, the keyboard player and the singer and sax player became England Dan and John Ford
Oh, wow.
Coley.
Who would know but you?
I
Greg
guarantee,
knew.
I guarantee you, I'm not the only one who knew. Yeah, Greg knew.
But they weren't from Oak Cliff.
No, they were not. They were not.
That-
They were Pleasant Grove guys.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, yeah.
Interesting. That's a lot of fun.
One other thing about the book that was so enlightening was I don't know how I missed this. I'm probably the only one that didn't know that Dallas was like the national headquarters for the Ku Klux Klan.
That's true. That's true.
I did not know that. I was shocked when I read that.
At one time, we were the largest, or we had the largest percentage of Ku Klux Klan members per population.
Yeah.
So yes, it was not a very good time.
No, that's just wild to think about.
And there was even an event downtown at the Magnolia Building with the flying red horse on top, where they would actually turn out all the lights, and then they would turn on certain lights to form a big cross so that everybody in the city could see it. And so there were, fair days for the Ku Klux Klan, and it was just amazing that the citizens stood so
really glorified.
glorified it. It
Wow.
was just really crazy.
We had a publicist here in town has her own film festival. It came from Texas, and we had her on recently. We watched some of the movies that were going to be at the festival. One of them was A Fair to Remember, which is about the state fair, not an affair to remember, but a fair.
Very fair.
And it talked about that. It was one of the things that I knew that for a very long time, there was only one day for people of color, any color, to come. And I think they specifically, it was, just for, they said for black people, but I think in the movie they said something about also other, brown people, whatever, however we would describe people of any other color. But I was surprised there was a Ku Klux Klan Day, because I thought every day is the white people day.
Right.
Like, how many days do you need?
That's right.
Yeah, you also need just that very special day. Like, it was very interesting to find out. Of course, it was also interesting to find out that they had a Little People's Village where you could go and
my
just watch the
gosh.
little people live.
Oh, wow.
And they had a whole area sectioned off for Native Americans, and they had dances twice a day where, they did war dances. I was surprised and I thought it was kind of funny. Mike was like, I never heard of this, but they had topless dancers and all kinds of strip shows at the fair.
Oh my gosh.
Who knew?
Well, now I do remember that they would have women standing outside this doorway dancing, and they'd have a guy on a microphone, and he would be touting rock and roll burlesque inside. And first of all, I had no idea what that was, and it was suggestive, but it just didn't seem like something that I particularly cared about finding out anything about, so I never went in there. But I assume that's what they're talking about here.
I think that was probably one of the places. I think they had like an area that when you walk down that area, there were, fair barkers on both sides where they were bringing them into different. Yeah, I
think that was right on the midway. But I could be wrong.
Right
I could be
just,
wrong about that.
Just right off where they had the so-called freak shows and everything. They had that little space.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real head scratcher that that fair park and the fair itself is embedded within the black neighborhoods.
Right.
Yet they could not go to the fair.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's just hard for me to fathom.
The changes they're making now, I'm anxious to see. I want them to complete it. I want them to open that new public park. I want them to develop that area the way they had originally agreed when they took the land.
Right.
Yeah, they came in and said, well, we'll do this for you and we'll straighten this up, but we're taking your homes. And then they create this huge fair that they were locked out of most of the season.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, it's sad, but it was an interesting part of that movie for sure to find that out. And of course, I'm sure we all have read The Accommodation or listened to Mike read it to us. And there's a lot in there about the 10th Street District and some of the different redlining issues that we've talked about.
That's The Accommodation, the great book by Jim Shoots, who we will have here on the show in the not too distant future.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
He's already made it known he wants to come on here, so we will have the great Jim Shoots on.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Fabulous.
I found a lot of what was in the book, in the history in the beginning, and so much of it, I was like, the accommodation, and you start thinking
that was one of the
even an
books.
extension of some of the things that he was saying easily came from reading yours, and you were like, oh, okay, then that's what happened. Or at the same time, while his book might cover something else, you were describing something happening that it made it interesting.
Yeah, that was one of the books that I did use as a source and kind of gave me some inspiration in certain areas. And I met a guy named Donald Payton. He's the president of the African American Genealogy Society. What a bonus it was to meet him, because he introduced me to all kinds of people that I would have never known to speak with that were famous in that 10th Street and South Dallas area. And he also just turned me on to events and athletes from Roosevelt and Pinkston that never got the cred that Kimball and Carter and Sock got. And I was just floored by the number of fantastic athletes that came out of Roosevelt High School that I'd have never known about.
Wow.
I didn't realize that Roosevelt High School was actually in Oak Cliff.
For a long time, I didn't either. I think the guy who first jumped out at me as being from an all-black school in Oak Cliff was when they finally started segregating, and I could have my timetable screwed up here. They segregated, and all of a sudden the black schools were playing the white schools. I think that happened in my senior year. And the first guy to jump out was, I believe his name then was John Washington. And we would know him later on as John Jefferson, who had a terrific NFL career. And he was by far, everybody who followed football back then closely, high school football that is, would tell me that he is by far the best high school football player we've ever had come through here.
Wow.
And that's saying a lot, because even there were some really good ones even in the pre-segregation days, and I do remember those early years when they first started playing each other. There were some other guys who were really, really good too, but the consensus was that we had never seen anything like John Washington. And of course, he went on to play in the league.
Yeah, he was superior talent for sure.
All right, anybody got any other Oak Cliff stories? to tell here?
Well, there is one other topic that needs to be discussed today that's not really relative to Oak Cliff, but we do want everybody to know that today is the 60th anniversary of the Beatles concert
Yes.
at Memorial Auditorium.
Yes.
And there's a little story, there's a little myth around
Get
that.
out of here
He was
without
hoping
this.
I would forget, but I didn't forget.
That is a sister right
And
there.
you know,
love it.
for these last few minutes, I thought surely you were, so go ahead.
My sister was there too.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good.
Who's telling the story, me or you?
Well,
I want to hear her side.
I want to hear her.
Yeah, we've heard you say it. We've heard you too many times, Shoopy.
Yeah, you even held her to questions before on air when you would have her on. So we want to just hear her.
I limited her questions?
No, you limited her to your questions, and
yes.
All right.
on short
okay.
phone calls.
very,
you
yes,
didn't
directed.
want her to really tell all of the things, and we
Yeah.
want to
All
hear
right,
all.
with more on that, here's Patti.
Hey.
With the real story.
The real story. Well, I was a Beatle maniac. I still am a Beatle maniac. I will die a Beatle maniac. And my brother liked them, but then he liked the Dave Clark Five too, and it was kind of a binary thing. You either liked the Beatles or you didn't. There was no.
I was a big
second
Rolling
on this.
Stones.
I was
And
a
you
Stones
were,
guy.
Yeah, and you were a real big Rolling Stones fan, and that was just like not going anywhere with me. But anyway, but I had a really good friend, Patricia Douglas, who was also as big a Beatlemaniac as I was. And so her mom, Eloise, is a saint to me because she did everything she could to allow us to maximize our Beatle love, to the point where she went downtown to the theater when Hard Day's Night was going to be there. And I think what happened with the Hard Day's Night, this is a little setup, but also a diversion, was that it was going to be shown like one day. It was not like a run. They didn't have like a run.
Yeah.
It was like going to be a one-time thing. And you had to go and get tickets in advance. And so Eloise went down at 5:30 in the morning on the appointed day when tickets were going to go on sale and stood in line so that Patricia and I could go see A Hard Day's Night on whatever date it was going to happen.
Now, I seem to remember this.
Yes. Now, I don't believe that you were available for that. I'm not sure.
No,
You
I was
didn't?
not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I was
Okay.
not.
Well,
It would have been
unfortunately,
extremely uncool to go with two girls to see a,
yes.
That's the truth.
a
Yes.
hard day's night.
Yes. Yes.
What?
It's not cool to go with two girls.
Things were
Or
different
it would be
then.
really cool to go with two girls. You can look at it that way.
I feel like I would have earned you some big old cool points, Mr. Nerd.
I think
were
probably if
different
one
then.
was not your little sister, it might have made a difference.
Well, it might have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if he'd been really kind of into girls at that point in his life, I don't think he was quite there yet. So because he was young.
Yeah, I was too.
Okay.
I just
Maybe
couldn't
you
get-
were. You just
I just couldn't get him. I was
He
too
didn't-
big of a dork.
he didn't make it known to me in any case. So, but it was also your unavailability, even though you had a ticket to attend the concert at Memorial Auditorium.
Now, weren't there
on
other girls who
September
went on this
18th.
venture with you?
Oh,
Weren't there
yes.
4 or 5 of them?
Yes,
again?
yes.
Yeah.
There were 5 or 6 of us. And then also Eloise was the one who went and got us all the tickets. And we paid her back. And without Eloise, none of this would have happened. Really, truly, none of this. I can just see
So
me
the
asking
great
Dad
Eloise
to do
Douglas
this.
is my nemesis here, huh?
Yeah,
Yes,
she
she
is the one. She is the one. Saint Eloise is your nemesis. May she rest in peace. But
Just for the
yes,
record, I love that
yes,
woman.
Yes, no, she was a dear soul, and just loved her to death. But Mike was unavailable, even though there was a ticket for him. He was unavailable to go to the concert. And Mike, why were you unavailable to go?
Something was going on that night that was a little bit more important to me.
More specific.
Yeah. And not your first date, right?
It was not my first date. It didn't involve a girl, although probably the driving force behind me wanting to do it was possibly the thought and the hope that maybe if things broke right, it would.
Well, he is circling around with
Yes,
the
he
point.
is. Yes, he is. He's trying
What
to.
was the score?
14-7. Hillcrest over Kimball. And I went there thinking that maybe I'd meet a girl, you know? When I was such a dork that there was no possibility of that happening at all.
And you didn't go to Kimball yet either.
No,
you
I
were
didn't.
at T.W. Brown.
I was in junior high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What business did I have there?
I thought you would have gone at the Beatles concert.
Yeah.
I probably
All
would have.
worked up and wild over the
Right.
Beatles. You
Right.
don't think that he would have preferred to be there with those girls?
If I'd have been smart, yes, but I is not smart.
No, but that is the reason for me to be in Dallas on this day, is to celebrate this august anniversary with you.
Well, I can still picture vividly our sainted mother standing on the kitchen floor over there on Kimball. And I'm about to leave and walk up there and go to the high school game. It was at Sprague Field, which was an easy walk for us. And she is standing there holding up that ticket and saying, "Mike, are you sure you don't want to go see the Beatles tonight? Are you sure you don't want to go?" And I just went, "No, I'm going to the game." That was that.
You think
Out
this
the
is
door I
why?
went.
Do you think this is why you didn't get girls? And maybe you didn't actually know where to find them.
I don't know. I don't even like thinking about this. I don't like talking about it. I don't like any of it.
Change the subject real quick, right?
Even though I've
I-
told
I
the
do-
story a million times just because it's funny.
Well, I do have a question, because if I'm correct, that photo is from the press conference here in Dallas, correct?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
That one. Yeah.
Yes.
And so is seems like there's one back here as well. Oh, it's not? Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah,
them coming off the
yeah,
plane.
Beatles walking off the plane. They received their cowboy hats, which I'm sure each one of them still has today.
And on that
Well, two of them.
comment that we discussed
someone will go
yesterday,
Yes.
those are the crappiest cowboy hats I've ever seen. Those are not cowboy hats. They look like they try to be bull rider hats and then somebody cut off the rim.
That's true. Gallon hats.
They're just they are not.
They're not.
They
They're
don't
not
even
good.
remotely resemble a Stetson. But
100% bowlers.
in order to make peace with you, I'm going to give you this.
Oh my gosh.
The Texas Pop Festival. Yes.
Shoopy.
Ooh, look at that.
Wow.
Look at that.
This was on my wall when, as long as I lived at home, and then when I turned 17 and left for college, everything came down. But
That
I
is-
just
You
thought
still
that
somehow have this.
I still somehow have it. Yes, it's quite old and fragile.
It is. Oh, shit.
Jesus, Shoopy.
See what you did,
Luckily,
Shoopy?
Me?
Yeah,
luckily-
you.
You have it backwards.
Luckily, we'll do.
I do?
No, it's
No,
good.
she's-
It's
he's
good.
good.
Yeah. Luckily, we are on podcasts, so if those little things slip, yeah.
And what's cool is that pop festival was 2 weeks after Woodstock.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
So a lot of the bands that played at Woodstock just made it on down to Dallas.
Yep.
Or Louisville, I guess. At that
Louisville,
time. Yeah.
technically speaking.
Now
I did.
that I did go to.
Yep. I went to
You went there?
You all went?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great.
What day?
2 days.
Memorial, was it Labor Day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I went Sunday and Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went 2 days too.
Naz. Oh, what I wouldn't give to see Naz again.
Oh, yes. Todd Rundgren and
And I saw Led Zeppelin and I saw Spirit. The greatness of
This
Spirit.
greatness of Spirit. We saw Spirit so many times
Oh, I
together.
love Spirit to this very
Me
day.
too. Their
Randy,
music
California.
still, when it comes on my stream, it's just like so good.
speaking of ahead of their time.
Yes, they
Yeah,
were.
they were.
They were.
10 years after, B.B. King, Canned Heat. I'm just going to read them off here, okay? All right, you had B.B. King, Canned Heat, Chicago Transit Authority.
Yes.
In the early days.
In the early days.
I think we had already seen them once at Moody Coliseum.
Yes.
Or not at Moody, but in the auditorium at SMU. With the Youngbloods. Oh my God, my favorite band of all time.
That was at the Fair Park Music Hall, wasn't
Oh, that
it?
was.
Yeah.
That was. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Delaney and Bonnie and friends were there. Freddie King, who we didn't have much idea about at the time, but as things turn out, we would find out that he was a local cat. We played around here all the time if you knew where to find him. Herbie Mann, don't get that one. The Incredible String Band, the James Cotton Blues Band, Janis Joplin.
Janis Joplin.
Johnny Winter.
Johnny Winter. Oh.
As you can see, these are listed in alphabetical order. Then Led Zeppelin.
I've heard of them.
Led Zeppelin was making their, I believe, second swim through here within a matter of months. And I saw both the first show and this one.
Didn't miss that one.
Naz, Rotary Connection,
Zeppelin 7 times.
Sam and Dave.
Sam and Dave, yeah.
On a show like this, you may ask, what is Sam and Dave doing on there? Well, that was very common back then.
Yeah.
Very common. Santana, Sly and the Family Stone, Spirit, Sweetwater, 10 years after with Alvin Lee
I
up
know.
front.
The great Alvin Lee.
Yes, and Tony Joe White.
Tony Joe White. Oh my gosh.
The swamp guitar.
Yes.
All at the Dallas International Speedway. Ticket, if you'd like a little ticket information on this.
Where can I get a ticket?
Let's see.
It wasn't
There's
online.
only an address given here.
There was no Ticketmaster back then.
No, there was not.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah.
To run downtown to some bank or somebody who had tickets
Yeah.
back then. And
Tickets were $6 a day in advance, $7 at the gate. A very, very lofty sum for back then. Or you could go the 3-day weekend for $18. Make checks payable, if you would, to Pop Tickets.
Checks.
Checks.
And then there's an address given here. Let's see, you had Sound by Hanley. And yeah, that's it. 12 miles north of Dallas on I-35 East at the Dallas International Speedway.
And it was hot.
It was
It was
So hot.
so hot.
balls hot.
Do you remember the fire trucks spraying the
Yes.
crowd?
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this was, how long did you say after Woodstock, Herb?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Herb.
Where did that come from?
I'll answer to anything. I'll answer to anything, Bill.
Oh, shoopy.
His brother, who's in my class, is Herb. And I just had a massive, massive brain train wreck then.
I also wanted to give you this, Mike.
Oh,
Since we talk about Oak Cliff.
yes, we do.
Cliff, that's my hood.
That's
Ooh,
mine.
yes, yes, yes.
For Patty.
Oh my gosh! This is so sweet, Greg. Yes. Yes.
Oh, man. It's another
Absolutely.
gig t-shirt.
That is me. Thank you.
That's a great gig t-shirt.
Thank you. And can I just ask him one other question about the book?
You can do
How
anything
do
you
people
want.
buy it?
I'm glad you asked. They can buy it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. They can get it from the publisher, which is Archway Publishing. Or they can go to my website, write me a note, and I will autograph it and send it to them in the mail.
Oh, that
Like you
is
did for
pretty
me.
fabulous.
Yes.
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 That is fantastic.
It's www.navajoslim.com.
Okay, and then if we want to review it so that we can let everybody know and share how incredible it is.
Yes,
What do
you
we
can
do?
you can go onto Amazon and leave
Okay.
a review there.
Okay.
Also, Archway has a
does?
place to do that as well.
Okay, great, great, excellent.
Excellent.
Now, one more word about the Smoky Rose and what we got going on there tomorrow. We will be there from 4 until 6. We'll be doing the live podcast thing. That'll be followed by live music with Bill Brooks. Now, what you say and you ask is the Smoky Rose. Well, it's a barbecue joint, but it's not any just regular run-of-the-mill barbecue joint. It's a Tex-Mex barbecue joint. Established in 2016, it is right in the very heart of their community in East Dallas. They serve meats that are smoked in their wood-burning smoker. Low and slow, that's the way you do it. Everybody knows that. It's the right way. And it brings out the best flavors. Every item is made with the highest quality ingredients. Every bite is as good as the last. The drinks, made with special care and the vast knowledge of the owner, the great David Cash. They are located in East Dallas, right across from the Arboretum. Smoky Rose has the perfect seat for you on their patio, open year-round, where you can enjoy your food and drinks while taking in the beautiful surroundings. They are open for brunch on Sundays. Happy hour, 3 until 6. They are at 8602 Garland Road, right across from the Arboretum. And don't forget, we're going to be out there tomorrow doing this on the 19th of September, 4 until 6. So come see us out there. Greg, thank you so much, man.
Thank you
Really
for having me.
enjoyed this.
This was a blast. It really was. You don't get
was.
to talk about Oak Cliff that much with others, so
Right.
it's been awesome.
Yeah. Great to see you.
And of
Good
course,
to
the
see you,
straw that stirred the drink was my baby sister. So glad
He's
you
used
were
to
here
that.
for this.
He's
It's
used
only
to
been
that.
50, 60 years since I've seen you,
I
so
know. It's been
yes.
a long time.
We haven't changed a bit.
No,
have
we haven't. We're still fab.
Yes, we are.
So for Ashley, for Becca, for Shoopy, I'm Mike. This has been your Dark Companion. Let us know what you think about this. You can hit us on any social media. Email me if you want. theoldgraywolf@gmail.com. But we would love to know what you think about what we're doing here. So until next time, until tomorrow, in fact, from the Smoky Rose, see you.
All right. I'm gonna go take my pants off.
Your Dark Companion is a Stolen Water Media presentation.